So when it comes to building wealth, we all know that's about more than just the numbers. How we think and how we behave plays a huge role. That's why in this video, I'm going to share with you 6 lessons that had a huge impact on how I manage money. And I'm hoping that it'll do the same for you. So let's start off with the first lesson, which is using money to buy time. And the reason why I like this lesson because I think about it when I was a kid. When I thought about money, I thought about all the nice things that I'm thinking about, like maybe the toys, the candy, the comic books. And even growing up as an adult, we tend to carry those same habits in terms of the material things. Like maybe we want nice cars now, we want clothes, we want the big house. So we take these same habits, but as you grow and you start to develop a deeper understanding of money, and you start having a more hyper focused goal for what you want to do with money, then you start thinking like, okay, you know what? It's not the material things that I want. It's something deeper than that, and it's in what we all really want. And we all think that money is going to make us happy, right? But what we really want is the freedom, right? Freedom is what makes us happy. Freedom to do what we want, when we want, how we want, with the people that we want. And I think for a lot of people, this is what people are searching for. Like I remember even like when I was in college and I was thinking like, damn, I don't know what I'm gonna do like after school. Like I don't want to work a 9 to 5. And the reason I asked myself that question, like why? What is it about 9 to 5 that I really want to stay away from? And I think for me, and this is me personally, and this is probably for you as well, it's just that being told what to do, right? Having someone dictate what you can do with your time. So you try to figure out ways on how you can like gain control of that time. And this is where people start to say, you know, all right, in order to gain that freedom, that time where I can control what I want to do, I'm gonna have to make money. So I think once you start grasping that, then you start having a different understanding of how you go about making money or building wealth. So I think for a lot of people, it's not the money that makes people happy. It's basically the freedom to do what you want. So the second lesson is it's never enough. Now this lesson, you know, it was a little trick for me, like really like breaking it down, because on one hand, I'm the type of person that believes that it's okay to want more, right? It's okay to want better, right? When it comes to building wealth, it's nothing wrong with that. But on the other hand, there has to be a realization that, you know what, it is enough. Like, you know, what you have is enough. So it's basically trying to balance those two dynamics where you're like, all right, you know, it's okay to strive for more, want better, but at the same time, understanding you have enough. So as I read this book and they break it down, they come at it from the perspective of comparing your lives to other people, right? And we have a tendency to do that. And that feeling and that emotion has been amped up, especially with social media, where like to say Instagram, where you're looking at, you know, people's lives on Instagram, you see the nice cars, the boats, the lifestyle, they're traveling, and you tend to compare your life to what you see on social media. And it gives you that feeling of it's never enough. Whatever you have is never enough. And that's the problem, because it'll never be enough, right? Because there's always going to be someone with a nicer car, a nicer boat, a nicer home, nicer clothes, a better looking boyfriend or girlfriend. There's always going to be someone that has better, and that's going to get you to a point where you feel like you never have enough. And in this book, it talks about don't risk what you have and need for something that you don't have and don't need. And I looked at that and I read that and I was like, you know what, that's true. Like you don't want to get to a point where you're going to risk the things that you already have and you need for something that you don't have and don't need. So it's like you get to a point where like, yes, it's okay to want more, but understand that no point in risking what you have and the good thing that you already have for something that you don't need. And I think people need to really understand that when it comes to building wealth. And this book does a great job of like, you know, breaking that down to a point where you can understand that. So the third lesson is no one cares, right? And what I mean by no one cares is that no one cares about your possessions. Like no one cares about your cars, nobody cares about your home. Like we have a tendency to use wealth as a signal to others that we should be liked and admired. All right, but in reality, no one really cares about the things that you have. Yeah, it may seem like that when they come to your house and say, oh, John, you got a nice house. I love that car. And we have this feeling like, all right, you know what? They like me because I have these possessions. But in reality, like no one really cares. Like what people really want is that they have this they use your wealth as a benchmark for their own desire to be liked and admired, right? We want, like a lot of people, what we want is like we want to get these nice things because we think that people will like us and admire us for the things that we have. When in reality, we should be focused on respect, right? And the way you get this thing is by being a humble person, right? Being kind, right? These are the ways that you get that respect, by just being a normal human being and not saying I want to build wealth because I want people to like me. That'd be the wrong reason to do that. So I think that that it's important to understand that, you know what, no one really cares about the things that you have, right? What they care about is you, the person, the individual. All those other things are just bonuses, are just things that you get because, you know what, you feel like you deserve it or whatever, for whatever reason. But the focus should not be like build wealth because I want people to like me. It should be because, you know what, there's a deeper purpose, which is freedom, and I think that's the most important thing for anyone looking to build wealth. So lesson number 4 is wealth is what you don't see. And we as humans, we tend to judge things by what we see, right? And it's understandable. Like, it's not like we can see someone's bank statements or someone's portfolio to see how wealthy someone is. So we basically judge by things we see. And someone has a nice car, they got the nice homes, or they got the clothes, or whatever it is. And we see these things, especially on social media, like, oh, this person must have a lot of money. When the truth is, like, wealth is what you don't see, right? Wealth is basically foregoing all that nice stuff in order to have that later, right? To make sure that you're good financially for the long term. Because you can see a rich person, they may have all the nice cars and all that stuff, but we don't know their financial situation. We don't know 5 years from now if they'll still have that information, those material things. But someone that's wealthy, they're building for the long term, right? They're creating the systems, they're building the foundation where that wealth can last them a long time. And you tend not to see that, right? You tend not to see that wealth built up over time because they understand that it's something that they have to forego in order to enjoy that stuff later. So there's a huge difference between being rich and being wealthy, and reading this book, it gives you that deep understanding that wealth is something that you don't see. So the next lesson to understand is that time is your friend, right? Like, when it comes to investing, the most powerful force is time. Think about it. If, like, Warren Buffett, when he started investing, I think he was like 11, right? So imagine being that young, putting money into the stock market, and year over year, decades over decades, that your money is just compounding. Like, you're gonna make a whole lot of money by the time you reach a certain age. But a lot of us, we start late. You start in your 30s, 40s, some people in their 50s, and you don't have enough time to make sure that compound. And the good thing about time is that it neutralizes a lot of luck and risk, right? Which is something that obviously when it comes to investing, that a lot of people need, right? Of course you need knowledge when it comes to investing, but we all know that, like, there's a lot of luck and risk involved. But time neutralizes both of those things. Like, think of a stock market. Like, stock markets go up and down, right? Now, if you're someone that just invested in a stock market in 1 year, and during that year the stock crashed, you're probably going to lose that money. But if you're someone that invested like in a 30 years time, regardless if the stock market crashed in year 1 or it went up, it doesn't matter, because over time you looked at the data, you know that the market is going to go up. So regardless if there's a recession, depression, whatever it is, you know that over 30 years you're going to make a good or the hope is that you're going to make a good return. So the good thing about time is that time neutralizes all that bad luck and the risk that's involved when it comes to investing. So the smart thing is to just start early. For a lot of people, if you're reading this in your 20s, make sure you obviously educate yourself, but start early. So on to the final lesson, which is no one's crazy. I mean, some people are crazy, like some people are out of their minds crazy, but in the context of this book, no one is crazy. And the reason why this is such a powerful lesson is because, like, you don't understand. It's hard for us to really understand like what people have gone through, right? Like, growing up, people have different, family values. They grew up in different incomes. They grew up in different parts of the world. They grew up in different types of economies, different job markets, different degrees of luck and different experiences. Like, let's say if you were someone that grew up in between the 1900s and the 1950s. Like, all you knew was war, disease, and death, right? Like, these are things that people experienced during those times, right? And so they probably had a different experience when it comes to money. But if you're someone that grew up in the 2000s, where you're dealing with technology, you're dealing with a robust stock market, like, all you know are really good times, right? Like, we've had a crash, here and there, but you never had to worry about death to a point where you had to go to wars. So you manage your money differently. Like, you probably had a family where they manage money differently. So you never really understand like how people like grew up when it came to money. Some people's families were very conservative with money, so they dealt with money a different way, and some people were very free with how they dealt with money. So everyone has a different experience. So like for a lot of people, when we see someone spending money the way they do, it's like, yo, that person must be crazy. Like, to us it might be crazy, but in their head it makes sense to them. Like I remember when I was in debt, when I was in my situation when I had a bunch of debt. I remember the way I was dealing with credit cards. I would take a credit card. I would do a cash advance. I would take that cash advance, pay off another credit card. I would just do all kind of crazy things when it came to money. Like to you it would be crazy. In my head it made sense. I was like, yo, I'm doing some crazy stuff with this money. I'm making sure things are getting worked. But then months later that you're in $30,000 of debt, and then you look back, you're like, yeah, that wasn't the smartest thing in the world. But in your head, like when you're making these decisions, it makes sense to you, right? For whatever reason, it makes sense to you until you get to a point where it's like, you know what? You look back and say, you know what? Yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing for me. So it's hard for us, right? We don't know what people are going through. We have no idea what people experiences. We can only like cover with what we judge by what we see. Like I mentioned earlier, we judge by what we see. We say, you know what? These are bad financial decisions, and we say, you're making these are stupid. These are just dumb things that you're doing. But to them, in their head, it makes sense to them. And I think it's important to at least understand that, you know what? Even though it does look crazy and it's something that we wouldn't do, especially at a point in our lives, it is important to understand that whatever they're doing when it comes to money, it makes sense to them. So at least just keep that into consideration. So my final thoughts on this, right? How well you do with money has little to do with how smart you are, right? It has a lot to do with how you behave. Now, obviously, if you're someone that's trying to make money, create an income, obviously knowledge is important. And not to say knowledge isn't important, but what's more important is how you behave with money. Like that's going to dictate how well you do when it comes to managing your money. It doesn't matter about what you know. It's the behavior and the habits that you have when it comes to dealing with money. If you stay consistent and you develop good money habits, long term you're going to be fine. Now, obviously, when you're trying to start businesses, these are things that you're going to have knowledge for when you're trying to figure out different ways to make money. But when it comes down to the basics, how you behave with money is more important than what you know about it. Right? So that's all I got for you guys today. If you got any comments or questions, make sure to leave it down below. Hit the like button and share. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right. So you guys take care and have a good one. Later.